Alright, I thought I'd do a quick video about the Rubik's Cube. They're pretty cool. Don't really have any interesting facts to tell about them, but I can muse about them for a while. See where that gets me. The funny thing about a Rubik's Cube is that they're actually incredibly easy. Like, it's just remembering a series of rotations, and once you've done them a few times they just become ingrained in your body like any other action, and you end up being able to do them without even thinking about it really. So that's why people can solve them really quickly, because it's just mechanical. But the actual steps to do it are very easy. I'm not going to go through them all here. I actually made a video earlier going through them all, but my girlfriend walked in the room and kind of ruined that video, so that's fine though. It was a bit of a weird one anyway. I'm not very good at explaining how to do the cube, because you have to explain how to rotate the cube in 3 dimensions using just your words, so that doesn't really work out. But it's pretty cool. I use them quite a lot in work. I'll literally just sit there at my desk playing with the Rubik's Cube for 10-15 minutes just for something to do. And everyone's always really surprised by it. They're like, wow, you can do a Rubik's Cube. And it's like, well, yeah, so can you. You just need to take the time to learn a few basic patterns. There's not even any logic involved, really. I mean, I guess there is a little bit, but it's mostly just finding shapes and then going through the motions to get them where they need to be. There's more complex ways of solving it, but I've never really been into those. It's never really been my kind of thing. I would like to know more, but I'm too lazy. Too lazy to learn. That's my problem. So maybe one day. I've learnt a few tricks about doing some stuff with them, but that's mostly just been playing about, which I guess is how you're meant to do it. Ideally, you know, you want to, I guess that's where the intellectual part comes in. It's observing the cube and observing what happens to the different shapes when you move them, and then figuring out how to do certain patterns with those. But yeah, I think it's worth learning how to do. I used to have a not four-sided, that'd be ridiculous, that'd be a triangle or a pyramid. A 4x4 grid on each side one. That was a bit more confusing until I realised that if you made the 4 squares in the middle the same colour on each side, and you joined up the pairs of the side colours, it basically became a 3x3. So the excitement of that one didn't last very long, because it was just a case of setting up the cube at the beginning and then you just had the same process, so what was the point? Same thing with a 5x5 really, it's just an extra layer. You have to make it 3x3 in the middle and 3 wide on the sides. So the bigger grid ones, they're slightly more interesting because you're trying to create patterns before you're actually solving the cube. It's like one of these but with extra steps before you do it. So that's quite cool, but it's not actually that much different, so I didn't find it too entertaining. When I was in uni, I was doing computer games technology, which was like a programming course, and when we were learning 3D rendering, I decided to make a Rubik's Cube. So I rendered. I didn't actually use 3D modeling at all, but I was using DirectX to draw just a series of flat planes which represented the Rubik's Cube, and then you could manipulate it, which was cool. Then on the night before the coursework had to be handed in, someone came up and was like, "That's pretty cool, Callum, but you have to have a 3D model in it. That's what the coursework spec says. Like, that's one of the major things you have to put in it, a 3D model. So you're not just drawing the shapes yourself, you're loading in a 3D model that someone else has made and you're rendering that. And I hadn't done that. So on the night before I handed in the coursework, I had to go online, find a random 3D model and put it in my coursework. So I ended up with a Rubik's Cube floating in space with a little Enterprise, like from Star Trek, circling the Rubik's Cube. And that was the 3D model that I loaded in. And there was nothing in the coursework saying you had to texture the model. So it was a magenta, like bright pink Starship Enterprise rotating this Rubik's Cube while you solved it. So that was pretty funny. I ended up getting an A for that, so I guess the model loading part wasn't that important. But there was a lot of stuff on that course that was a bit weird. Because it was a games course, it wasn't really about the quality, it was about how good a game you made. Because some of the professors were really biased when it came to judging your coursework. It wasn't really down to the technical aspect, it was down to how fun it was to play and stuff like that. So I got a lot of A's because I have a lot of crazy ideas. My code was pretty good, but I wouldn't say it was amazing. Not back then. I guess nowadays I would. Nowadays my code's pretty good. So I made a game once where we had to make a game for deaf people that had no visuals, and I decided to make a game where you played as Noah getting animals onto the ark, but in a fit of maliciousness, God had blinded you. So you had your headphones on and you couldn't see anything, it was just pitch black, obviously. And you could hear sounds because it was all about, the coursework was all about doing directional sound and stuff because that's how deaf people would like to play games. And you could hear the animals coming from different directions and you had to rotate the ramp to the different animals and make sure you got 2 of each kind on board the ark. And it was really fun and it was a really good game. Really well coded as well. This was in my second last year, so I was getting pretty good at it by then. And what happened was I ended up getting a B instead of an A. So I went to the lecturer and I was like, oh, I see I got a B, like what could I improve? And the guy's justification, the only thing he came up with was that the guy who I had got to voice God was this Norwegian guy who I knew from playing World of Warcraft. Or maybe he was Swedish. I think he was Swedish. Yeah, he was. And he would do the voice of God for all the different parts of it. My lecturer said it was unrealistic, an unrealistic voice for God, and that was his only criticism that he had. And that made me go down to a B, which didn't really matter. None of my grades mattered until 4th year. It's a weird way they did our course, but I thought that was quite funny. So I made a game. Next game I made, you were a god. No, you were fighting against God. You were like this depressed emo guy, and God was at the top of the screen, and it was like Space Invaders. And you were firing sad faces upwards at God. And each time a sad face hit God, he would start morphing into the devil. I gave God like 50 hit points, and I drew 50 different gods, like pictures of God, going from God to the devil, and morphing between them, so that each time you hit God, it would take down his health, and then whatever his current hit points were, like if he had 35 hit points, it would show image 35. So you were gradually morphing this God into this devil. And I made the face of God in my game be like a caricature of the lecturer, which was pretty funny. I got an A for that as well, that was pretty good. I don't want to brag about my grades, it's just a statement of fact. It's kind of irrelevant these days. Nobody even cares that I went to uni when I go for a job. I don't even know why I still have it on my CV, honestly. So yeah, there's that. How did I get onto that from Rubik's Cube? Oh yeah, because I was making weird Rubik's Cube games. I used to make a lot of really good Rubik's Cube games. Oh, not Rubik's Cube games, just games in general. I used to really enjoy uni. It was really fun because it was computer games. But that's that. You know, those days are long gone. I haven't been in uni for like 10 years now. It's been ages. Time flies. Time really flies. But you know what? It doesn't fly that fast. The more I think about it, a lot's happened in the past 10 years. I think, you know, there's not that much you can do about it. Time will do what it wants. So there's that. And yeah. Basically, I think that's it. This video is like 11 minutes now, but this is pretty much solved now, so that's cool. Done. So they're pretty cool. There's nothing impressive about that. People seem to think it's cool that you can manipulate the cube without looking at it, but I don't think that's that cool. Because it just becomes instinctual, you know? It's like being able to take a drink of water without looking at it. Same thing, it's just amplified. So that's a little bit about the Rubik's Cube, and a little bit about my uni days, I guess. Good times. Anyway, I'll leave it at that. So, adios guys.